thanks to the City of BRIMBANK across our neighbourhood and the world, Soul Dive with AD, Roshani and Lydia on BRIMBANK Live on Live FM.
Good morning to another weekly episode of Soul Dive on Live FM BRIMBANK Live. We're your girls AD, Roshani and Lydia. And this morning we have a really fun episode, maybe a bit controversial, on the Matrix, spiritual, psychological warfare is what I've called it, because it's an attack of the mind. It's so much harder getting out of technology than just falling into it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. I had to think about it, but I'm like, yeah.
I think that's the whole concept. So I watched the movie The Matrix not too long ago, and for those of you who know what The Matrix is, that came out I think we were discussing over 20 years ago, about 20 years ago. And so at the concept of, technology ruling us and us not even knowing that we are being controlled type thing. We think that we have free will and we're living our lives and we're doing what we want to do, but it's everything around us kind of telling us how to act, how to be, what to do type thing. So I thought it would be a really fun conversation to have, just with all of the ridiculousness happening all around the world right now. US elections, just hilarious. Coronavirus.
Comedy.
Cardi B said.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she sang a whole song, didn't she? Or they just they
remixed it,
made it everywhere.
Yeah. So and just all of the madness. So I just thought we'll have a chat about it. What is your definition or idea of the Matrix? Like I said, for me, it's just technology ruling us without us really knowing it in everything that we do, whether it's ads, subliminals, the news that we watch, the things that we learn at school, just being on the computer, lights, just every stimulation outside of our natural being, kind of working towards how we act and how we think. Roshani, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, I've never actually watched The Matrix. So I think that for me, all of these ideas that obviously it touches on are things that I guess understand from my point of view in seeing the world, in understanding things from a psychological perspective. To me, I know that people are addicted to their smartphones. It is a thing. I know that people, are very much so impacted by what they see on Instagram, on the news, and all of those things are heavily curated for a particular reason. And so I guess in terms of the actual Matrix and that whole kind of conspiracy, that's something I'm not familiar with, but the understandings from it, I definitely am. And I do agree that there are things out there that we're living with at the moment that are changing the way that we think, changing the way that our brain is kind of balanced and chemically imbalanced. It is a legit thing, and we'll delve into that today, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. What about you, Lydia?
So I actually haven't so I haven't watched the movie. I've been aware of the movie for the longest time. People have made references to it a lot, I guess, even in just casual everyday sort of settings. But yeah, so I believe we're all real, and I believe that this life, this world is sincere. But I think what sort of removes that sincerity is the fact that ultimately there's a hierarchy in which we sort of function. So yeah, that system that's in place where there's obviously people in power, who have huge amounts of money and power, I guess. And I think that dynamic alone can make you feel as if we're living in a sort of matrix, because it's clear that things are being manipulated, things are being done with intention, and that we're being, I guess, guided, or there's a lot of suggestive stimuli around us, And then not to mention now technology is not even really something you can opt out of. It's something, we need it to function. So you can say to a degree that they, or whoever's in charge, they determine what goes to a level. But I do believe we have free will. I think you mentioned that, didn't you, AD? Free will.
Yeah, I did. I just feel like we do all have free will. I just think the world is working really, really, really hard to make it difficult for that kind of free will. Like you can't just be like, deuces, I don't want to work anymore. I don't want to use my computer. I don't want to use my phone. I'm just going to go chill, you know, in the forest. No such thing. You know what I mean? Like you'll be tracked down somehow. Even, you know, just being, I don't know. Like I feel like we all have.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
We have we're kind of confronted by a lot of like ultimatum situations. Like if you don't work, you don't eat, and you need to eat, so you work. So it's kind of like, I know what you mean. There is free will. Ultimately, we choose, but it's pretty clear which we're going to choose just for survival alone.
Yeah. And I think that COVID really kind of highlighted that, you know, because we were so used to, I guess, doing our 9 to 5, going to work, like we were like, this is life, really. And then COVID happened and suddenly we couldn't go to work and everyone had to stop, everyone had to be home. And, you know, for some people working from home, that was one thing, but some people lost their jobs altogether and couldn't actually go to work. So it's kind of like, is life a lie? Because like that was life, that's all we kind of knew. Yeah. And so suddenly it was almost like, oh, so things can stop, you know, if, you know, push comes to shove and things are happening. If we're in a pandemic, you know, we don't need to go to work necessarily because we can't go to work because something's kind of put a barrier on that. And so I think that, yeah, definitely in these times, it's kind of shown us that, you know, there are things put in place that seemed like they were just things we had to do, but suddenly
then to me, that's the matrix, you know what I mean? So the system system that they had curated and that we had in place and that we were, you know, functioning under stopped. And we continue to live because ultimately this whole thing is not a matrix, but
I think that's the whole point of the movie. I don't think the movie was literal as in like we are fake robots.
Oh no, but there are people who genuinely believe that we're living in, you know, a full-on simulation, like a full-blown Truman Show.
You know, I just think, you know, what keeps us in this so-called matrix is like this fear and sadness, you know, when you fear the world around you, when you fear being without technology, when you fear being without, you know, Hungry Jacks, because there's chemicals in that as well. Like we get addicted to all of these things that we start feeling like we can't live without or we won't survive without. People on, you know, medications that have been on medications for so long that don't know how to live without it or would never even try type thing. And that's how the world keeps revolving and being like, you cannot live without us and our technological world. And I think, you know, the matrix is, or the psychological warfare is between technology and spirituality. I always go back to spirituality because there's so many spirituals like Buddhists who have meditated for like 6 months without food. You know, were in a trance for 6 months without food or anything and they survived, and, you know, because they could align with their higher conscience. I feel like spirituality is being reduced as technology rises. What do you guys think with that? But I also feel like with COVID, I found a lot of people turning back to religion and to spirituality as well. So yeah, I don't know if that's the matrix falling apart. But what do you guys think about the concept of spirituality versus technology?
I think I would say yes, just in the actual like very nature of what those things are, I would say that exists, because it's like with technology it's like you're going away from self. Like even when we not really when we use certain apps, but just technology in itself is, you know, man-made. It's yes, you can still exercise like, you know, parts of the compassion when using it, but I don't know, I just think that when we're removed from environments that are free from technology, we're less in touch with just ourselves and I don't know, I feel like so.
And especially because when you think about it, we use technology mainly for social media, and social media is about interacting and connecting with other people. It's not about interacting and connecting with ourselves. So because we are on our devices so much, you know, we're messaging, we're texting, we're Snapchatting, we are always connecting with others. So it does take the focus away from the self.
Exactly.
And I think that, you know, because we are on our phones and because we are continuously connecting, whether it is for personal reasons or for work, it then leaves us little time to actually focus on ourselves and reflect on what we're doing and how we're reacting to things. And, you know, it's kind of like sometimes people don't even know how they feel about certain things because they'll jump on Twitter and they'll see something and they'll see how like celebrities are reacting or like other people online are reacting, and they just like jump on those reactions without actually thinking about, you know, what does this actually mean for me? What you know, what do I actually feel about this? How's this impacting me? So and sometimes we can kind of like run with it, that we forget and we don't even know ourselves how we're reacting about things. And I think that especially now, like things come in so fast that we just automatically jump on things on social media, that it's only after reflection that you're like, this is how I actually feel about it. Like the thing that I tweeted or the thing that I reposted is probably not a great reflection of how I feel. But yeah, I definitely think that it social media and technology occupies us so much. It gives us such little time to think about ourselves.
And every time we're this is real quick, but every time we're like using social media or whatever, we're present, we have an opportunity to actually be present in our environment. And that's not to say that we should be present wherever we are, but that's to say that we still are physically somewhere else other than where we're you know, interacting on that, like online or whatever. So yeah.
Let me just throw some weirdness in there. We are the mind and not our body. So if our minds is on technology, then we are not.
Yeah,
where
I
we
guess,
are.
then they call it online presence for a
what
reason. Like you could be physically present somewhere, but your mind, as you were saying, AD, is online. So, you know, you might be there sitting at a dinner table with your family, but if you're on your phone, your mind is not there physically with you. And I think it's about those things aligning. And that's why it's super important, you know, to get rid of your phone, turn your phone off, so your mind and body can be present in one kind of thing. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And because we have social media is such a big part of our everyday lives now, we've now increased the amount of time that those two things aren't aligned, like mind and body. And yeah, more than ever that's the case. So that's really the issue. And we're just required, I guess it's being integrated into all parts of life, like more and more as we progress through society. Social media is a must to function. So
Definitely.
concerning.
You're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia. And we are talking about spirituality and psychological warfare, the matrix, technology, and presence, I guess, and what that means for us. So yeah, no, that was really interesting. I feel like it's been really hard to sit with myself, like now trying to be mindful of these concepts, you know, of being present, putting your phone away, you know, and just trying to be there. It's really uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. It's really hard trying to sit there for like 10 minutes without anything at all.
without scrolling.
Yeah. Without, you know, just looking over at your phone because there's always a notification popping up. It's hard. And for us three, we have seen, you know, the pre-technology era type thing when it was a bit slow with the cassettes and the floppy disks.
And the Walkmans.
Yeah.
The Walkmans, and moving on to this Wi-Fi age where, you know, we are connected everywhere. You know, it's been hard. It's been hard transition.
It's just hard.
And I can only imagine what kids that were born
I thought she was
straight.
gonna go in with some statements. She's gonna go hard. And we're talking. Okay, you okay?
I can only imagine what the young people who don't know anything else other than technology, how they would feel about the concept of free will. You know what I mean? Like they don't know anything else.
What you don't know don't hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like,
know.
yeah, it's all they know. So it's like they don't have that muscle memory, that flesh memory of what was, and then that ability to compare. Like we were saying just before we jumped on air, like us 90 babies, we kind of got a little peek into what it was like before things really progressed. I think things progress rapidly, and like, you know, between the 90s, the 80s to the 2000s, the early 2000s. But yeah, we remember like you were saying, dial-in internet, like landlines that were connected to the wall. Like, I mean, that's a landline, so I didn't.
Yeah, but I guess we remember a time where there was dial-up, as you were saying. We went through like you know, using a landline and not actually having a device. I remember like when my dad got like a mobile phone and we only had one mobile phone in the family, and it was like a brick. Like I remember those times.
Me too. Like my dad gave me a Nokia brick phone.
It's always a Nokia,
yeah, just to let him know that I made it home after I walked home for like 10 minutes from primary school. But what I was going to say is, why we should be talking about us. Like, we should be checking up on us. We are those people that, you know, experience both. And it's like, how are we doing, you know? How's our generation doing?
That's why this conversation is happening right now, because it's like,
right?
You wake up one day and you're like, what the hell? I am so deep in the technology, I don't even have my own thoughts anymore. You know? You say something out loud, and all of a sudden there's ads on your phone about what you were talking about. I'm like, what the hell?
I know.
Well, see, to just remove that, I don't talk to Siri, by the way. Me and Siri,
I don't talk to Siri either.
So I've never asked Siri to do anything for me. Like, let me tell you, I've never asked Siri to do anything for me. Meanwhile, I have friends who send me text, like they are texting with Siri because they're just talking into her mic. But like,
you don't even have to do that. Our phones can hear us. You don't need to be talking to Siri. Siri is listening regardless.
Yeah, well, she's listening, but like she's not turned on, so we don't have this back and forth communication. I think
we're not close, me and Siri.
That's actually creepier because she's just listening to me, and I'm not listening
Seriously.
to her.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk more after the break. I want to talk, you know, more about technology and how it's revolutionized, you know, our togetherness and our connectivity.
Yeah.
But it's also created, you know, I'm going to call them real life zombies. I said it. Zombies.
With her chest.
with my chest. You're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia. More after the break. Welcome back. You're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia. And we are back from a break talking about technology, the matrix, presence, you know, our bodies and minds, and what we know, you know what I mean? If it's all we know, all we've known, luckily for us, we got a bit of a taste of what it was like once upon a time without all the glitz and glam of technology, but now we're so deep in it, right in the middle of it, actually, and I find it hard to get out. I'm finding it hard to get out. Like, I say that I want to delete my Facebook and Instagram, but it's really hard. I keep like turning it off for a while, and then 3 days in, I'm like, I just want to check. I just want to check the notifications, and I'll be off real quick.
It's not that easy. It is really difficult. And, you know, we were saying just before that, like, even if you wanted to completely remove yourself from your device, there's other things. That's not just that we rely on these devices for, you know, for fun and for pleasure and for connecting, but also work. And so, like, if you turn your phone off, like, you're not getting those jobs, you're not getting those calls, you are not getting those emails. And so it makes it very hard to separate from technology, even if it is for our well-being. And I guess, like, the thing is, like, when we are addicted to something, you know, we have like a certain level of, you know, like dopamine that our brain kind of naturally produces. And when you're addicted to something, you experience a high from that. And when you experience that high, and that's addiction to drugs, it's addiction to food, it's addiction to your phone, to your device. And when you experience that high, you actually go through like a chemical imbalance, and the chemical production of dopamine changes. So you actually then always need that device to give you that high again. You know, so it changes the chemicals in your brain that you will have to rely on it. So, you know, when you leave your phone and you're like, I'm not going to look at it, I'm not going to, you know, I'm going to delete Facebook.
You actually fiend for it.
Yeah, you need it again. And because your brain is telling you, well, we can't hit that threshold of happiness and of that feel good feeling. So you need to go back to that device, or go back to that drug, or go back to that food. And as you were saying, even chemicals in food, it does it too. Like, there are a lot of things that our brain gets used to, and then we need, and phones are one of them.
Okay, so there's the concept of, see no, speak no, hear no evil. I guess we can use technology to only show us what we want to see, which is positive things. Like, if you just want to listen to gospel songs all of the time and connect to certain friends and not do much else. But I find it really hard. Like, there's ads that show up, there's celebrities that show up, there's just this constant bombarding of things that you don't necessarily want to see or opt into. So where is that free will, where you're like, bro, I will use my phone, okay?
Yeah.
You want me to be addicted to the phone? I'll be addicted to the phone, but can I at least get the choice of what I want out of it?
Yeah, because those big sort of like search engine, websites, whatever it is, Google, or even just YouTube, you have to use it. It's like a directory to find what you like. But then it's like in using that, it's inevitable to just have ads, you know, and whatnot. And you have to tolerate them unless you want to pay that monthly premium.
And that's the thing, it comes with a price, doesn't it? Like for you to remove yourself.
Your own freedom. Freedom comes with a price.
That's crazy. And I think that the more you connect with people, the more you are kind of exposed to those things, like even on Instagram, it's like if you have more people that you follow, then things that they look into will pop up on your kind of like what's that page? It's like the explore page. Yeah. Explore. So it's like, and the thing is, like, if you have like 2 followers and you kind of just keep it to that minimum, of course, it's going to lessen the exposure that you get. But the more you connect, and the reason why we use social media is to connect. So you want to connect with more people, right? You don't want to like stop that connection, but then it just means that you're exposed to a lot more that you didn't ask for. And there's like sending messages and giving you things to see and read that you didn't really, want to see in the first place. So
once you see it as well, like, I don't know if I think it's in psychology where it says 95 or 93% of our actions are determined by our subconscious conscience. Can't say that word. And about only 5% is determined by our conscious.
Conscious, really?
So everything we see around us gets stuck in our minds. Even if you're on the bus and you're just seeing different faces or whatever, then you're going to have dreams later. They say all of your dreams are of people you've seen. They're not made up. You know what I mean? Whether you know them or not, it's people you've seen, it's places you've seen, it's things that you've heard.
Because I guess it was still very real experiences. Like, to be fair, that it makes sense, because 93% being the subconscious, they were still experiences. We just deposited them in different places in our brain. So that makes sense, but that's interesting. I didn't know that.
So imagine like you're scrolling through your feed and all of a sudden you see, people in America getting killed. And you're like, nope, getting out of it. But that's already
planted
in there.
That's the thing.
So it's just like it's like you're constantly fighting this uphill battle of trying to like maintain your sanity and your mental health and choose what you want to feed yourself. But there's just the world being like, nah, we're going to show you.
We're kind of pushed in a corner. Like, yes, we do have this free will ultimately, but it's like there's a lot of things that aren't working. There are a lot of things working against us, basically, for us to kind of be reckless with this free will. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think that, like, people always say like mud sticks. Like you'll see something for the first time, and whether that's like a news report or something, and you hear it and you take it in, and then maybe there's a follow-up saying that report was wrong or that report was exaggerated, but nobody takes in the follow-up. It's too late. Like, your mind has already taken that in. And especially when it comes to fear, like we were talking about before, when people take fear in, it can actually suppress that rational part of your brain, that it doesn't matter if you get that follow-up report or that follow-up thing saying that was exaggerated or wrong. You're already holding that fear in your long-term memory, and it's very hard to dislodge that fear.
That's why people remain irrational in certain situations, where it's like, oh, I thought you would have resolved that now. But then that emotional response clearly triggered that suppression of that part of the brain.
Yes. Whoa. Thank you for mentioning fear, because I think fear, and I'm always like talking about love is the gateway to, your higher self and to finding yourself and blah, blah, blah. So the world, this matrix, as we call it, plays on our fears. Like that's the control mechanism, is to scare us, whether it's scaring us about, food, So we feel like we've got to eat all the time, whether it's scaring us about coronavirus and, you know, being afraid of one another, and stuff like that. So it's this fear that is really hard to get out of, like Roshani said, that's implanted in our minds, that keeps the world going around, that keeps the zombies being zombies, because it's a lot easier to just opt into, all right, I'm just going to use my phone, something that I'm used to, gets me that high, as opposed to I'm actually going to turn off my phone for 3 days, go on a sabbatical, and it's going to be really hard, and I'm going to like fight myself, and I'm probably going to be so stressed and like wanting to cry because I can't check my Facebook, you know, than it is to just do it.
Because I mean, it's ultimately like there's a certain like group in society that have control, you know, or, you know, maintain order is another way you could look at it in society, and it's, of course they have to. I guess it only makes sense that they would play on our fears and insecurities for us to be, you know, like, so I guess what's the word, cooperating or having conformed, you know, to this system. We needed to have been sort of manipulated in some shape or form, I would say, because the alternative is that they didn't use these sorts of tactics, and we really have that really full, genuine, like, free will, and we don't end up being as, you know, in sync as we are. Cooperative. So it's like, it's not a hard concept when you think about the fact that there's people maintaining order right now in society.
Absolutely. And even when you look at what's happening now with like Murdoch Media, you know, they're putting stories out there with a particular agenda, and you know that, as we said, going back to the fear, that sticks in people's minds, that whether it's the truth or not, you know, that's going out there, and that's what people are taking on. And so, you know, even when we look at the fact that normally when we watch the news, you know, people say that bad or good news rather doesn't really sell. You know, it's the bad stuff, it's the things that target particular groups, like that is, you know, that's one kind of like reflecting power, because we see that there are certain groups there that are continuously targeted and continuously have less power than others. And it's also putting those ideas out there that people just latch onto, and you know, they almost can't help it. And so I think that is, you know, that comes into play when we think about how we are living our lives and doing things, because it you can't escape it. You know, you can't escape the media, TV, on our phone, like news outlet, you know, things will pop up. There are things that like sometimes you don't even sign up for, but like Google will actually send you like news alerts, and it's related to things that you may be interested in or that you know of, and you're like, how does Google know that I want to be seeing this
they're
right
listening
now?
to us, man.
Because their robots are like working extra time, like full time, overtime, around the clock. No, those robots,
they don't sleep. They don't sleep. They don't need to sleep like us.
They make connections way quicker than we do. You know, we might make a connection a few days later. Oh, okay, that happened. Nah, it's just happening. You know, that goes with that.
You're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia, and we are talking about technology and how it affects us and our brains, both scientifically, because it does change, you know, chemicals in our brain, addictions, fear, trauma, whatever, and just, you know, getting right with ourselves. And I feel like it's just, it's climbing an uphill battle, like between trying to get right with you and fighting all of these subliminals. And when I think about subliminals, I don't know if you guys know that episode in The Simpsons where it's, there was some belly dancers on TV being like, Eva at Niash, Eva at Niash. And then when you play it backwards, it was like, join the Navy, you know?
Really?
Yes, subliminals.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking to Lydia the other day as well about frequencies. You know, it doesn't even have to be words anymore. There are certain frequencies that lower your, I don't even know what it is, but like it makes you unhappy.
Your spirit,
it's not,
your mood, like.
Yeah. So you can be listening to a cool song or whatever, thinking that you're having a good time, but behind it, there's this frequency playing that actually changes your mood without you knowing.
Same way like music, they say music is the language of the soul. And if music is waves or whatever you want to frequencies, then, you know, what we hear or like speaks to our soul, like speaks to our
Yeah.
like our who we are.
Yeah, I mean, like, and
Heart.
people talk about, you know, positive affirmations and them saying that, you know, if you say something enough, if you hear something enough, you know, it'll happen, it'll change. And so the opposite would obviously still apply. You know, you're hearing these frequencies that are negative, or hearing these things through media or through music, and of course it is changing the way that we think.
Yeah, like a lot of, you know, spiritual people, or depending on what it is, will say that, you know, you speak, well, in Christianity, you'll say that you speak life and death from your tongue.
Yes.
And so that's to say that if you can speak life and death from your tongue, everything in between as well, you know, and words have power, essentially, is what that means. And they do, yeah.
It's true. And apparently our bodies, you know, we're not solid, you know, we are made out of frequencies, like that is the whole of us. So through music, through frequencies, it changes us, it changes your whole mood. Like you can literally think yourself into sickness,
Yeah,
you know, think yourself into death, like you said. So how, with all of that, do we have free will, yo?
Because, you know, ultimately, look at us, we have this consciousness, right? We're discussing these things as if we're aware of them. So already there's a free will in that.
Yeah.
There's in the awareness, just understanding your position, and the confidence that brings is good. But I would say that with that consciousness, we have decisions now, like options of how to manage our situation. And I think, just like they say with life doesn't get easier, you just learn how to manage it, you know. It's like the reality is what it is, but there's still ways that we can exercise our free will to manage the situation in order for it to not be harmful for us. If anything, it could be of benefit to us. There are people who literally use social media as their tool for financial freedom, as their tool for, you know, to connect with people. For me personally, because you know there is the positive side of this whole conversation. We're not all the way, like, you know, but for me, I went on exchange to France when I was 17 years old, and so I had a host family, high school friends, and I visited like twice since. So I potentially could have just completely disconnected after that experience, given how far away France is and whatnot. But like, because of social media, it feels like I'm so close to these people still. And it is because of social media that I even went back the second or third time, because I was able to, you know, keep that connection for those 2 years before I went back. So I'm grateful for it. We have family in Africa, my family in Ethiopia, being able to call them now and not go and get that scratchy card, you know, that gives you 10 minutes and it's not even good quality sounds, like, you know, voice over VoIP, you know, it's such a great creation. Like the fact that we can use the internet to dial in on someone through Viber and WhatsApp, like, you know, I could go for days in both ways. Positives and negatives. Sorry.
I just want to say something super quickly about that, which it is true, I guess, that if you think about it, if this pandemic happened and we were really wanting to remove ourselves from social media and from our phones, we wouldn't even be talking right now. First of all, we wouldn't be doing radio, we wouldn't have been able to continue those connections, and so it kind of goes back to, you know, there are positives, there are negatives, but we are at the end of the day having to rely on social media and technology to continue those positive things, which then sometimes comes with negative implications.
True.
No, you're right. And I think, it's just about being mindful and being like, all right, what I'm seeing right now is not serving me. It's not going to do well. Let me use technology to progress. Let me use technology in a way, you know, use the system to your advantage type.
That's that consciousness with action. Like, you know, they say knowledge is only power when knowledge is applied, you know? So it's kind of that.
Reach.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's talk more after the break, guys. You're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with AD, Roshani, and Lydia. Speak to you all soon. Alrighty, welcome back to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia, and we are talking about technology and spirituality and presence and fighting the matrix, the uphill battle. So I wanted to touch on the pandemic and how it's really pushed us towards technology, you know, bringing us together, because look at us right now, from the comforts of our own home, coming together to bring the show and make it, you know, bring it to life, which I'm really grateful for. but also how it's kind of, I don't know, melted our minds a lot. Like people are just addicted more than ever to technology, to playing games, to my cousins. And this okay, sorry guys, I'm just a bit of a rant. So many ideas in my head. But like Bill Gates, I think it was Bill Gates, said that he's trying to like, we should block the sun, which is really stressing me out because what? And my cousins, they're school age, have been playing PlayStation in the dark for so long, for so many hours. They just got used to it. You know what I mean? Like school on their computers and then just playing games on their computers. And the other day, like I love to put the curtains up, you know, when the sun's out. And he's like, my eyes hurt when you do that. Like they're not used to the sun anymore. And I was like, this is getting dangerous.
No,
that's why Bill Gates is like, that's the next phase where our physical bodies now
deteriorate,
are adjusting. It's like changing. And they're not used to natural sunlight. They're not used to light. They're used to
that's scary.
That screen. It's scary.
You know, also kids like with this short-sightedness, because you have to literally be practicing or regularly looking in like far in the distance to kind of maintain the health of your long sight, whatever. But now, like kids, a lot of kids have like short-sightedness because they're not doing that. They're constantly looking like at something that's really close to them. And this would just like basically make that whole situation worse.
So it's a bit scary. Roshani,
and you don't realize it though, like, you know, over this time of, you know, the pandemic, you're not realizing the fact you're going out as much as you used to, so you're not getting that sun exposure. Your eyes aren't adjusting to natural light as much as you know, they're used to. And you know, it is slowly but surely deteriorating because we're staring at screens all the time. And it's only when, you know, for me, when restrictions even drop at night, I was like, crap, like I really can't see, like I need stronger prescriptions. And it's because over these couple of months, you don't realize that when it's happening on a day-to-day, but your body is changing to adjust to the environment that you're in, which is inside, which is in front of a laptop screen, which is not where you can try it. So yeah, it's scary, but it's real.
It's kind of cool how our bodies adjust, because they actually do. They adjust to different things. And, you know, we might have or the kids of this generation might have a higher tolerance for certain things than, you know, the older generation will have. We adjust. And that's why we can see that humans can stand certain different situations around the world, or different.
And our skin colors were made specifically towards the environment. You know,
exactly.
Darker skin.
But we need that sunlight. You know, vitamin D is like, it's connected to the health of so many things. So,
and especially connected to mental health. You know, the more vitamin D you get, and that's something that goes to technology and what we're experiencing right now during this pandemic is the fact that mental health issues are on the rise. Suicide rates are on the rise. So, you know, all those things are connected in such minute ways, but they're still connected.
And that's the thing with the pandemic here. We've been placed in a place of fear. You know, we walk around in fear. We have our masks on. We're breathing our own damn toxins. I'm tired of smelling my own breath every day. You know, every time you step out, just breathing your life away, breathing it back into you. Like, no, over that.
It's a really distasteful thing that we're doing. You know,
we're afraid of other
life
people.
That we're supposed to
it ain't cute.
We're afraid of other people now because, you know, the 1.5 meter. Like, you just don't know. Like, there's this fear that's been placed in all of us, and it's like we don't talk about. I mean, we talk about technology and how that's kept us together while we're apart, but that doesn't take away from real human interactions, you know, and being even the compassion has kind of disappeared because you're afraid, so you're like, get away from me type thing, not like, I hope you're doing well.
Right.
I would say that some people seem to be more compassionate right now, at least. I don't know about you guys, but I don't feel more hostility in the air personally. I don't feel, you know, these things, despite
it's not hostility, it's fear.
I think,
but with that fear, a lot act hostile towards you because of the fear, and I just don't feel those things in my experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I see where you become grateful for your friends and family, and you have that compassion, and you're really connecting with people in that sense. But like, for example, like when I was doing grocery shopping the other day, there was a person next to me who was scanning their groceries, and it was like an older man, and he had dropped something, and my natural instinct was to go and pick it up and give it to him. That he was like, why did you do that? Like, you just touched. And I was like, oh my gosh, because like for me, I was just thinking, oh, I help this man.
Be
He's,
nice.
you know, like struggling. Right. And so I think that maybe, you know, that sense of you kind of lose that connection with people because people are so scared, because he's probably like, this girl is just touching my stuff. Like, you know, I don't know what she has and I don't know where she's been. And so I think that those things are playing into people's minds. And as AD was saying, it is that fear of something greater and something bigger being COVID-19 that people have on their minds. And it is kind of coming and kind of, I guess, breaking little bits of connections that we would normally have and not think about.
It's being expressed, I guess, as a cautiousness, like a carefulness in what they're doing. I sense that people are very on it. They're very cautious about the little things. People are constantly sanitizing, hesitating to sneeze, probably because they can't be bothered with the stairs that are inevitable. It's that in that sense, I would say it changes the atmosphere a little bit, you know. The the interaction between people sort of changes in that sense. Having to keep distance, these are all things that we're really sort of like reprogramming with, because it's just, you know, a completely new way of living. And when you do something for months on end, you're developing new habits, solid new habits. So it's going to be, that's why everyone talks about this new normal. No one's talking about, everyone's accepted. We're not going back to what we knew beforehand, you know. There is a new normal that we're stepping into and we're transitioning into, and it's kind of crazy, because it's like, on one hand you're surviving a situation, and on the other hand you're actually adjusting to completely new circumstances, and by the time you get a year into that, you're like, how far have I come? I didn't even realize I was
don't remember what it used to be like. But I think now more than ever, it's really, really important for us to start looking within, trying to get right with ourselves, you know, whether it's our mental health, because that's so fragile with everything that's going on. Physical health, you know, eating better, trying to actually be mindful, exercising, because people are so used to just being behind the screen now all of the time. Like we said, you know, not so used to the sun anymore, just walking out without your technology, listening to the birds, being by the water. I think now more than ever, we need to actively be pursuing these things before they slip away.
And it's definitely about taking control over that fear. And it's not that we are, you know, completely consumed by fear, that we can't control it, you know. And the best thing to do is to know yourself and to be strong and confident in yourself, in your emotions, in your reactions, and really understanding who you are, and that will really help you to take control over that, take control over the fear that is, you know, kind of going on and being passed out in society right now, and being able to really understand yourself and know yourself in order to control that fear and all of that craziness and scariness that is happening.
And that might look different to the next person. In the way, you know, the way you manage yourself will be unique to how someone else manages themselves. And I think it's about not just falling for the pressure, because I think we're constantly, you know, around other people. We have this visibility of what other people do, an unhealthy sort of level of visibility, but you know, it is what it is. So with that, we have to manage ourselves, be happy with ourselves, and the journey to that looks very different for everyone. But social media, it's either it uses you or you use it, and I think that we need to be consciously using it.
Take control.
Lydia with the quotes today. I'm loving it. You
know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
The quotes queen. Let's go on break now. We'll come back and talk more about technology and some Mythbusters actually, and what we're grateful for to finish off. So you're listening to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live FM. More after the break.
We love to bust a myth.
Welcome back to Soul Dive on BRIMBANK Live's Live FM with your girls AD, Roshani, and Lydia, talking about technology, free will, and just climbing up that uphill battle to, be right with ourselves, to be mindful, and to kind of remove all of the subliminals the world is trying to give us to kind of shape the way we think and we feel and all that jazz. So we don't have much time left. I don't know how the hour goes by so fast. So let's just jump straight into it. We want to
dispel
some myths. Like Lydia said, we love to bust the myth.
Busted.
To the first one I put, and this is, my sister randomly said this to me, and I was like, okay. So pigeons are not real. They are government made to spy on us.
I died of laughter when I saw that one. I'm like, I quickly, what did I do? I grabbed my phone, technology. I typed in pigeon and got people, I know what pigeons look like before you jump to that conclusion. Just to look at them again and be like, what is this? And then I get a whole map of like where the like, where what different parts are. And I'm like, oh my God.
A full diagram
of how the pigeon is a machine. And I'm like, no.
I know.
Oh, so it is online. I didn't actually check that out.
Yeah, check because
there's a whole thing. It's like a whole conspiracy because I didn't really know that was a thing either. I googled it, going down this rabbit hole of like pigeons are computers.
Yeah, they're computers basically.
They are watching you, and I was like, what? But I'm scared of birds anyway. So
I'm scared of birds too.
Well,
so scary.
Yeah, it's so crazy how they can fly. Like they can fly
and walk too.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It's like the combo of both. I'm like, just pick one and stay in the sky. Like, don't come into my territoriums.
That fear came on really hard when it's not crows, it's magpies during magpie season. And I was in Brisbane listening to some headphones, walking to the train station, and I just started getting swooped.
Yeah.
And I ran. I lost my iPod. I never went back for it. I was crying.
I can imagine.
Worst moment of my life. So now, anytime like birds, I'm like,
yeah. Oh, I get bullied by the birds at my park all the time because they're like these little yellow beak birds, and they think by us walking around and past that we're coming for their nest. Homies, if you're listening, I'm not coming for your nest. I come in peace. Just let me walk, okay?
Seriously, we can't fly like you.
I know. Exactly. It's crazy. There's definitely been times where like I've pulled into the driveway. There's been like magpies like around the door or like in the front yard, and I'll literally just be like, I can't go inside. I'm just gonna like leave. So I feel like a prisoner in like my own home because I feel like they are just like, they literally, especially this season, magpie season is intense. But I mean, I guess getting back to the pigeons and
but would you say real quick that that's rational or irrational thinking on the part of the birds?
I mean, they're very protective, right? They're protecting their nest.
I did a whole thing on ABC Radio when I was interning in Canberra on magpies, and apparently the male magpie does crazy swooping because if he doesn't protect his nest and the female well enough, the female leaves him. No, this is him trying to like, I can look after you.
He's trying to be like, I'll be your protector. I'll be your man. Wow, so Prince Charming behavior
type thing. So I'm like, all right, I get it. Right. But please.
I'm not trying to take your woman though. Like, please, just
or your child.
To steal your girl. Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. So they do have some sort of method behind their madness. Second one, we're living in a computer simulation, which I think we've dispelled throughout this whole show. Yeah. That it's not like that.
And to that,
I think this is the concept.
To that, I would just say, I think because, since the start of time, to now, there's been so much has happened. We have evolved, life has evolved, things evolved. We're so disconnected, or it's almost impossible to imagine what existed then, and to see that timeline and see it as real is really hard. So we're just here now. We're like, how do we get here? There's so much has happened, but no. Guys, this is real life.
This is real, guys.
Stuff. Yeah, this is real life stuff.
And the third one is deja vu is a glitch or a dream like that you've had coming that you've, seen again, like in real life? What do you guys think about that?
I guess parts of it. So like deja vu, like psychologically is seen as like familiarity based recognition. So like recognition is when you remember something and you can pinpoint where it's from. So for example, if you see a man at the shops and then you pinpoint the fact that you've seen that man on the bus, and then familiarity is when you know you've seen that man at the shops, but you don't know where he's from, but you know you've seen him. So it's like a mixture of those two things that and going back to like the subliminals and seeing things unconsciously and picking things up, you might not realize that you've seen those things, but then they come up in a dream, or they come up in, you have like a deja vu moment and you're like, where is that from? I've seen that somewhere. And so it's those things. It's kind of like like you familiarize yourself with things and you pick those things up. So that's kind of where I guess it's from. But I don't know.
It was like the other way around. Like, you had a dream about someone, and obviously that's not the case. And then you go out and you're like, hey, I saw you in my dream.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Deja vu.
I feel like if anything, you would have had to have seen that person
first,
and then had the dream about them. But
yeah. All right. Okay. It's almost done. I really want to finish off with what we're grateful for. Maybe just one each to finish off our Friday. Roshani, what are you grateful for right now?
Oh, it's hard to pick one thing, but I'm going to definitely say the connections that I have with people, friends and family. I'm feeling super, super grateful, especially being able to see all my friends now that restrictions are kind of easing. Just super grateful for the connections that I have with people.
I would say access to employment. I'm grateful for that. Yeah, being able to have some income to live,
What are you grateful for, AD?
I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm grateful for the sun. I'm grateful to be able to, walk out in the sun every day. It's getting warmer. So, unfortunate for America, they're going into winter. We're going into summer. So I'm really grateful for that. That's it. That's it for me.
Love it.
Yeah.
I hope you guys had a good time today talking about all of this conspiracies and madness. And for our listeners, I hope they got something out of it as well about,
I got a message from one of our listeners over saying fabulous, really enjoying a podcast today.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that. Well, we've got more next week. It'll be fabulous every week.
That's what
we're bringing it every week. So join us next Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. You're listening to Soul Dive with your girls, AD, Roshani, and Lydia. Enjoy your week, everybody.
With thanks to the City of Brimbank across our neighbourhood and the world, Soul Dive with AD, Roshani and Lydia on Brimbank Live on Live FM.